This conference will now be recorded.
This is a code enforcement proceeding, so the formal rules of evidence do not apply, but remember all your testimony today is given under oath, so keep that in the back of your minds. With that, I'll turn it to the town. I guess let me just procedurally, let the record reflect that I did review the November 1st, 2022 minutes, and I'll approve those as drafted. I checked that one sentence, it's fine, so they're approved as drafted. And with that, I'll turn it to the town for item B on the agenda.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is case number 2023-002. The property address is 106 Beachway Drive in the town of Ocean Ridge, Florida. The property owners, according to the property appraiser's office, are Patrick Martin and Chantel Goyette as the trustees of the Patrick Martin and Chantel Goyette Trust. This case deals with the violation of section 66-151B6. We have provided you with a copy of essentially the town's file in this case. And I went through the file in the town's exhibit with the respondents' representatives who are present here today. And so we ask that you accept into evidence the town's file.
All right. And for appearances, I guess, do you have any witnesses you're gonna call, or is it?
I'm gonna just have the town clerk, Kelly Avery, speak to proper service of the notice of violation and notice of hearing. And we also have Billy Armstrong, who's going to testify to one of the photographs of the tree at issue prior to the hat racking that's alleged.
Okay, go ahead and proceed with that then before I call the respondents.
Okay, first we have Kelly Avery, the town clerk. Ms. Avery, can you just testify to the service of the notice of violation and notice of hearing in this case?
Yes, we noticed it on the 1st of August, and then we sent the actual notice out with our code enforcement officer on the 2nd, posted that on the door and mailed that out, certified mail as well.
And those copies of the posting in the affidavit of posting and copies of the certified mail are included in the town's file?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Okay. I don't have any further questions for Ms. Avery.
And it looks like the signed green card, the signed certified mail came back?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and the next witness?
Your Honor, I would call Billy Armstrong.
Morning, sir, how are you?
Good, ma'am. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Mr. Armstrong, are you familiar with the property at 106 Beachway Drive?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you familiar with I believe it's a sea grape tree that is adjacent to that property?
Yes, ma'am.
And have you provided the town with a photograph of that tree before the recent cutting?
Yes, ma'am. The top photo is one that I had prior to the cutting. And then August, I found the tree hat racked. So I compared the two and sent them to Kelly,
And just so the record's clear, your position with the town?
Public Works
Okay, very
Supervisor.
good, thank you, sir.
And is the top photograph showing the tree, how it existed prior to the hat racking?
Yes, ma'am.
And when was that photograph taken?
About 6 to 8 months ago in that general area.
And have you personally seen the tree since it's been cut?
Yes, ma'am. I believe that bottom photo is the one I took.
And in your opinion, is the cutting of that tree what's described as hat racking in the town's code?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I have nothing further, Your Honor.
And just so I understand this,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
tree currently still looks like the bottom photo?
Yes,
Just with the trunk sticking
Yes,
out?
ma'am.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, respondents, agents, I guess, if you want to come to the podium and give me your names for the record.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good, your name, sir?
My name is Rolando Garcia. And
I'm Vanessa Garcia.
Vanessa Garcia. So we're neighbors actually for the last 3 years, and then we're neighbors of the Martin and Goyer family. And then anyway, we brought up basically a letter over here.
Yeah, I think I have that, show that to her first.
Do you have this one? What the, wrote basically. And then, I don't know, you want to explain? You want to read the letter to them?
Yeah, would you like me to read the letter from Chantal?
I think that's what I'm looking at now, is it from August 31st, is that the same?
Mm-hmm.
Giving you guys authorization? Yeah,
Yeah.
giving you guys authorization to be here, yeah, I'm looking at that now.
Correct.
All right, so I've read this, you can go ahead and explain if there's anything else you want to add.
You want to say something?
Yeah, so essentially the tree was damaged because of the heavy equipment that was moving back and forth on the street because of the construction going on at the end. And so one of the branches had fallen onto a lower branch and both of the branches were damaged. And so she contracted her landscaper to ask what to do and to remove it. And he advised to remove branches on both sides of the tree so it would be balanced and so that way it would grow back healthily. Because it was infested with bugs since it hadn't been removed. Yeah, she says that she's been using this gardener for 12 years and she's been pruning the same seed crate for 12 years and that there are photos attached to the email, photos of the neighbors that have used the same pruning technique as well.
Where are those? Let me see if those photos.
The reality is the tree is coming back. I don't know if you have.
Yeah, I
seen
think
it.
there's photos of the tree, the growth of the new growth of the tree in the
Yeah.
email as well.
And also I want to tell you on behalf of them, actually, they're great neighbors, they're good people. They have a couple properties on the city. They keep their property always clean and neat. That's the reality. So I think kind of like, hey, the tree's gonna come back. It's nothing that nobody have heard or anything like that.
If anything, they acted in, the interest of the tree to try to get it to grow back, because it was infested with bugs and it was dying. If any of the branches would have fallen off, that would have been a problem.
Correct, yeah.
Could have hurt somebody.
It looks like there are some photos in here with some new.
Yeah, it's growing back. I just
Yeah,
got some
the
pictures.
difficulty is that they don't grow back the same and this, because this is pretty severe hat wrecking. But I guess let me hear from the town, what's the town's response? What's the town's request here today?
All the neighbors has actually done the same exactly thing. Matter of fact, right across from her.
Well, just keep in mind, just because your neighbors do it doesn't mean it's not a violation of the code, so.
Well, actually, let me say something to you, the way I see it, because I have multiple property on the city. I didn't know that I kind of, if my garden come and advise me to cut my trees a certain way, because, hey, this is the best way to do it, I will go do it. You know what I mean? If even like in her case, I bet you she didn't know. Probably would be any issue with the city. I mean, to be actually honest with you.
Do you know if the gardener is a certified arborist?
I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah, and based on what I've seen, if you're a certified arborist, and Mr. Armstrong can testify to this as well, you're not going to cut the tree in that manner. Because if it doesn't kill the tree outright, it ultimately weakens the tree. and it doesn't grow back the same way. So that's the concern with hat racking, and that's why a lot of cities, including the town of Ocean Ridge, prohibit hat racking in their code so that the tree doesn't eventually die from a severe cutting like this. So that's why it's prohibited. Your Honor, what this town is seeking in this case is, this is, we believe, an irreparable violation because we don't know. Hopefully the tree grows back and survives this, but the concern is that it won't grow back as healthy. And the other concern is obviously this is part of a deterrent effect that the town wants to make sure that these types of actions aren't taken because the tree is adjacent to the property. So we are seeking the $5,000 fine that is available when the violation is irreparable. I understand the concerns about that a branch was damaged and they wanted to protect the tree, but it's actually a town tree.
Oh, it's the town tree?
Yeah, and Mr. Armstrong, will you come up for a second just to provide some history on that tree for us?
And I'll call you guys, just switch places and I'll call you guys back
Sure, no problem.
after Mr. Armstrong is finished.
Mr. Armstrong, are you familiar with the town trimming that tree in the past?
Yes, ma'am.
And what do you know about what the town has done for that tree in the past?
That tree has been pruned back about twice in the last 8 years by a licensed arborist as far as they could take it back. And it was brought up, I want to say about a year ago, that they wanted it trimmed again. And an arborist said it wasn't a point in time to be trimmed again. And that's where the tree was left. Generally speaking, for years prior to that, it was the homeowner's responsibility to trim that tree because I believe in our code, it's up to them to maintain the right of ways and set foliage in the right of way.
And how much would it cost the town to have that tree trimmed by a certified arborist?
The last time, I believe, I do have records, was about $1,400 to have that tree,
Okay.
up in the top, forked the right way and trimmed around and kept its shape.
So that picture that I'm looking at behind, above your head, or I guess behind me, that's, the grass strip is the right of way?
Yes,
Okay, and is that a road or is that a driveway to the left?
that's road.
A roadway, okay.
And go further, by FDOT right of way or code, a tree only needs to be 13 feet above the roadway. If it had been lower than that, it would have been on us to maintain it.
To keep it trimmed so
To
that
keep it
vehicles
trimmed,
don't hit
I
it,
mean,
okay.
So generally, that's one reason we observe things, to make sure we stay in the height that, or if a garbage truck's hitting it or something of that nature. So,
If the property owner had noticed it damaged and called the town, would it have been your responsibility to go look at it?
yeah, I would have went and looked at it. I would have taken one of the arborists that we use, one of the licensed tree trimming companies we use, with me and say, hey, what can we do to rectify any damage that was done to the tree? Is it, to the point it can't be and needs to be taken down that deep or not? So,
And did you receive any communication from the respondent about the tree being damaged?
I did not know.
Okay.
Have you ever talked to the respondent in the past about this tree?
The,
Property owner?
yeah, years ago,
Okay, was it about the tree?
about the tree.
And was she requesting it to be trimmed?
She was conferring with the town manager at that time, back and forth. We looked at it, the town manager and I, and that's when we had it trimmed. I know prior to the house being built, she wanted to remove that tree and the town would not let the tree be removed.
So the respondent's property is on the other side of the hedge, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so there's an issue there with, or potential issue there with just not liking the tree hanging over the,
Yes,
okay.
touching those palms. See the palms right there?
Yeah. All right, I guess let me have the respondent's agents come back up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So her email says that there was damage to the tree. Do you have any photographs of damage to the tree?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if she does have it or not. It's
Do you have
not in
access to the email that she sent? I think she
Mhm.
might have included
there.
photos
Maybe
in there.
included at there.
Yeah, I don't
actually.
see anything.
Now, something that I noticed, Bill was pointing then, 13 feet is the requirement height. If you look at the tree, I don't think so. The tree was 13 feet high. Actually, if the truck would have go through there, I think, would have definitely, hurt the branch and will hit the branch actually.
Well, I guess my issue is that it's not her tree to worry about. If the tree is not the right height, that's for the town, and anybody who's damaged by the town's tree would have recourse against the town. She's not the enforcer of the town's property or of the town's vegetation, is I
But
guess.
from what he was
my
saying, it
issue.
sounds like, she used to take care of it prior, and then they took care of it for a little bit, and then she was taking care of it again, so it kind of just sounded like there was a little bit of confusion about whose tree that was, essentially.
Yeah, and she's been really nice.
Yeah.
And she's maintaining actually the tree for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and I understand
If
that.
it's the town's tree, why didn't the town notice that it was broken and take care of it?
Well, that's what the town just testified to, that if they'd been notified that it was damaged, they would have come out and had their arborist address it, but there was no notice given to the town that there was an issue with the
She
tree.
thought it was her tree. It's on her property.
But it's not actually on her property, it's in the right of way.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. So, yeah,
Yeah, and I guess there's a lot going on here, but I don't think really any of that goes to the merits of the issue. The pictures I'm looking at, I mean, that, I can't not find that the tree was hat racked. There's literally no vegetation on the top of the tree.
yeah.
It's going back.
It's not that, and then actually, she did it, cut it, actually, all of that, but it's coming right back into it. And the reality is, it's not hurting anybody. And then honestly, as a property owner, the city, I think it's brutal for this lady to pay the fine, for this family actually, to pay $5,000 on fine, because she cut a tree, then it's growing back. That's honestly, I see it as a crime. That's a crime, no doubt. And then also, they have two properties over here. They pay taxes on this city.
No, I understand all
then-
all of that.
And then, I mean, with all of the respect to the attorney, I mean, $5,000. $5,000 is a lot of money, guys. It's really a lot of money. And the tree's coming back, actually. That's the reality.
Well,
And she's been maintaining, actually, the tree for 10 years, 12 years or something like that.
well, I think the testimony was that the town actually had a certified arborist trim the tree,
Twice.
right, and
Prior
at a
to that, and
$1,300. So to have it done correctly, that's what it should cost you. To have this done by someone who's probably not a certified arborist, you can get it done pretty cheaply.
no, actually, let me
But
tell
the
you.
problem is
Uh-huh.
none of us know here today whether the tree's gonna survive what was done to it. And I understand it's not a crime, but trees are very important to this town. Trees are important to a lot of towns, so what the concern is, one, with $5,000 fine that we're seeking, is so that the property owners knows, don't do this again. Don't take it upon yourself to go out and hat rack a town tree. It's a beautiful tree. It's a beautiful tree, and now we don't know if it's gonna survive. The second thing is it's irreparable. If it does die, the town has lost a beautiful tree. So that's why we're seeking $5,000, both to hopefully not lose the tree, and if we do lose it, maybe have some funds to replace it, and the deterrent effect to prevent this property owner from taking it into your hands and doing it again.
All right, how about if we see it this way first, you just say, then we don't know if it's gonna survive. It's a possibility, it's gonna survive, because everybody else is surviving. Right across the street is surviving, it's happening. So, okay, if the tree get to die, I bet you she will commit to replace it. That'd be no problem. So the reality is, and I mean, it would be really brutally unfair to punish somebody with $5,000. She got the message, no doubt about that. Well, they got the message actually. That, hey, oops, okay, made a mistake, you know what I mean? So, okay, how about we do some kind of arrangement? Then they commit to replace the tree if the tree die. But they're taking care of the tree. The tree is coming back.
So I'm not a certified arborist, but if she's going to replace that tree, my guess it's gonna cost her more than $5,000, because we're not gonna say, just plant a little tree and we'll all hope that in our lifetime we'll see it regrow to this beauty. So that's why these types of cases, we're going to seek the max fine. Now, I understand your argument, and ultimately, I leave it up to the magistrate.
Right.
The other thing I need to say, which is in the city's, the town's file, is that the town is seeking costs of $172.80. The worksheet for the town is in the file. So those are the costs for establishing the violation.
I'll give you the $172 right now cash. It's no problem. I'll collect it from them. It's no big deal. And now and then, I bet you she wouldn't have no problem, or they wouldn't have no problem to commit to replace or put a tree out there. Not a little tree, a fair size of tree. I guarantee you that will be no problem. So and then, and then everybody happy and move on. Actually, unfortunately happen. It's no different than an accident. When somebody make a mistake, do you want to run over them again? It doesn't make sense.
Well, the difficulty is you can't undo what was done. So to the town attorney's point, once you trim a tree of that size back that far, as you saw in the photos I think that she provided, little bits of foliage will grow back, but the tree will never grow to be a mature tree that it could have been, because it physically can't do that. Once you cut limbs of a certain size, it'll never grow back to the same height and the same canopy shape that it could have if it was trimmed and pruned properly by a certified arborist. That's the issue. So I don't disagree with you that some amount of foliage will grow back, but it will not grow back the way that it should grow, and the way that if it was pruned properly, it would have grown. Those are large, those are 6 or 8, some of those are 6 or 8 inch diameter branches. That's a good bit of the trunk.
You have to see the next one. Actually, they're growing back normally again. Trees grow again like unbelievable. Matter of fact, it will be probably better.
Well, it won't get nearly as tall.
Absolutely, I'm sorry.
I've heard a lot of these hat racking cases, and they don't. There's a reason that certified arborists get involved, because there's a way to properly do it and there's a way to not properly do it. And this, clearly by definition, the town attorney, can you read the definition of hat racking that you're relying on? Because there's several ways to do it. I think probably you've done it a couple of ways in this case, at least the gardener did.
So from the town's code, hat racking means to flat cut the top and or sides of a tree, severing the leader or leaders, internodal cuts, or pruning a tree by stubbing off mature wood larger than 3 inches in diameter, or reducing a mature tree's total circumference or canopy spread by 1/3 or more.
So as I read that section of code, clearly you've stubbed off, or the gardener stubbed off mature wood larger than 3 inches in diameter. But even hat racking, had the gardener left less than 3/4 of the tree, it would have been hat racking. In this case, there's nothing on the top of the tree. There's no canopy left of the tree at all. So this is a fairly extreme case of hat racking, setting aside the issues with who owns the tree and where it's located. That's important for the town, but by definition, clearly there's a violation of this code, which doesn't allow to be done to this tree what was done to the tree. And I understand your point that it's a harsh penalty, but I also am a bit sympathetic to the town's position that it's their tree, number one. Number two, nobody knows if it's going to grow back, but that doesn't even matter. If it grows back, but it doesn't grow back the way that it could have grown into a mature tree, then the tree is of less value to the town. If it doesn't grow back and the town has to replace it, there's additional costs there that the town has to incur to dig up this tree and plant the mature tree that the town would like to plant, if that's what the town desires to do. My concern is that the respondent, I guess, previously asked for the tree to be pruned, didn't get the response that they wanted from the town, and then took it upon themselves to totally cut the tree essentially down.
Different. That had nothing to do with this. That was a completely different time.
That was actually.
That was before, that was prior.
Years ago.
Before
right?
the tree was damaged. Yeah, how long ago was that?
That's what I heard the gentleman testify to, that there was a request to trim it, and the arborist said it's not time to trim it again, the town's arborist.
Yeah, but that wasn't when the tree was damaged. That was a different time.
Yeah, this is actually, he's referring about a year or so ago.
Yeah.
And then now this accident happened, actually.
But somebody needs to show me a picture of the damage. What's the damage?
Actually, the truck, the branch got broken with the trucks.
But there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, there's 10 tree trunks sticking up there. How many of those were damaged by the truck?
I don't know, actually.
So I understand your point. If one branch was
According to the
broken,
letter, one half of the tree, right, 2 branches on the tree on one side were damaged. And the gardener was the one that advised that she shave off the other, or that he cut off whatever the other side.
yeah,
of
the
the
trouble
tree.
is, I think
So, I mean-
that's just bad advice from the gardener. And again, we're standing here today, and nobody knows that the gardener is a certified arborist. My understanding of how these goes is a certified arborist would not have recommended anyone do anything like that to the tree. So that's my knowledge of these happening cases.
I mean, she referred on the letter, then she reached out to somebody multiple times and never got back to her because she will be here next week. Can we maybe postpone and have her actually give it a little bit more time for her to get maybe evidence than the damage, if that's what is gonna please you guys? Or,
It's not, there's not additional evidence. I mean, I have all the evidence I need in that photograph right there. There's no way I cannot find for the town that this tree was severely hat-racked. By looking at that photograph that's on the screen there,
correct.
there's nothing she can tell me that's gonna change that.
I thought you were asking about, some kind of evidence, and then also like the certification of the gardener, maybe the gardener certified.
It won't change whether there's a violation. Even if he is a certified arborist, I can't imagine he is, because he wouldn't have cut the tree like that. But even if he was, there's still a hat-racking of this tree. And I don't see anything, let me ask the town attorney, I don't see anything in the town's code, at least in the sections that I have before me, that indicate that any kind of documentation from an arborist would undo the violation that's shown in the photo. Is that correct?
No, Your Honor. There's just no way a certified arborist would do this to a tree.
And there's no language in your code that allows for an arborist to provide
No.
documentation.
No, because the property's not on residential property. I mean, the tree's not on residential property, it's on right of way, so.
So the state
technically-
law exemption doesn't even apply?
Right.
Well, can it be in a commitment up here, maybe, like I suggest to, hey, then she will replace the tree if the tree doesn't grow back?
Yeah, but
Something
again,
like that, because honestly, I mean, when you guys are seeking, I think it is brutal. That's no way on the world, and it's fair.
What
And then
I
I'm
can tell
just
you is
saying that
this.
because I am a resident of this town.
What I can tell you is this. If the magistrate imposed the $5,000 under the town's code, she can request a reduction from the town commission. And that's currently how it exists in the town code. If the fine is imposed and she wants to wait and see what happens with this tree and whether it grows back sufficiently or not, then she could come in with evidence showing that the tree is doing well after this hat racking, and maybe the town commission would consider a reduction. But there's requirements for trimming trees in the town. Technically, she should have gotten a permit before anything like this was done. And obviously that wasn't done. She took it upon herself or her gardener to do this to this tree, and that is why the town is seeking the maximum fine. Ultimately, if there's a reduction, that's up to the town commission.
but the town commission does have the authority under the code to reduce even irreparable, irreversible, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand, and I appreciate you guys being here today. My issue is that the job before me is there evidence on the record this morning that there's a violation of the town's code? Clearly there is, right? There's no way I cannot find a violation. There's no way I can look at that tree, that photograph, and the other 5 or 6 photos that are in here and come down any other way than the tree was hat-racked. Why it was hat-racked? Again, I don't think it changes the nature of the violation or whether there was a violation. Whether the branches were damaged, it could change whether half of it needed to be removed, but the entire tree was cut, all of the canopy was removed. So there's no way I can't find a violation. As the town attorney indicated earlier, there's a reason that the state law allows for irreparable and irreversible violations. It's because once you do it, it's a discrete effort, right? The minute the gardener cut the entire tree down, that's it. The tree, as you said, can grow back a little bit, but all the certified arborists I've heard come before me in various proceedings, they don't grow back the way that they otherwise would have grown if the tree was pruned properly. So I understand there will be some regrowth, but it completely changes the health of the tree going forward. And as to the comments about whether or not the tree will survive, that's not a requirement of the code. The code doesn't say you can hat rack it, but if it comes back and it survives, it's okay. the town code says you cannot do certain things, which the town attorney read into the record, several of which have been met by this photograph that I'm looking at on the screen in front of us. So there's no way I can't find violation in this case. Again, I think it's a reasonable statement from the town attorney that the commission could ultimately mitigate the fine if there's a request to do that, but I haven't heard anything here today that gives me a reason not to impose the maximum fine. The bigger problem for me is that it's not even her tree to be pruning.
Well, can I show you a picture of the tree on yesterday? Then it's actually.
Nice, I have the photos in here.
of
I see that there's
yesterday.
growth, but that doesn't change the fact that the tree was half wrapped.
Now, I have a question for you because it sounds to me like you are the decision maker. You can actually say, okay, you know what, you reimburse the town and let's call it a date, or don't do this again. Or you can actually go to the max, or you can say, okay, just pay $500 or $200 or $100. It's your decision as a magistrate, all right?
That is correct.
Gotcha. You know, you don't think of a resident of this city for 12 years or 15 years and they've been here, have multiple property, paying taxes. They never have any issue and this. Why are we going to give them max? I think it's not fair.
Well, I appreciate your opinion, but as I said before, I'm sympathetic to the town needing to send a strong message. You know, it would be one thing, I would be willing to impose the maximum fine if it was her own tree, but it's not even her own tree that she had racked. So, you know, she's got an uphill climb on this one.
I mean, honestly, I think that's excessive. That's abusive to the way I see it. And then I hate it. It's not to me, but it bothers me as a
Right.
resident. And if you guys have the power to do that, you know, you guys can do whatever you guys want with us as a resident.
Well,
And
no,
that-
that's
that's
not
not-
true. That's not true.
Is it Garcia?
Garcia, yeah.
Mr. Garcia, I understand your point, and you know what, you do have a point that in deciding the fine amount, the magistrate's gonna look at the past history of code violations, the severity of the violation, the action taken to, in most cases, correct the violation. So I think what your point is that she doesn't have a prior history of code violations. And I agree with that. So I will reduce the town's request and I will make it $2,500. But I'm doing that because you've made a good argument and I think you're right on point that she doesn't have a history of code violations. But it needs to be a significant fine because otherwise, what's gonna stop the next person in town from doing this? And what's gonna stop her from doing it again? So we do need to send a clear message. But you've made your valid point, and I will reduce the town's request to $2,500.
That's actually very well appreciated. And then, you know, you're great. And then I really appreciate you guys all. I have multiple properties on the city, and then I love the city. But I would like to see, you know, things then move forward and be, you know, realistic and be friendly to us as the taxpayers.
Understood.
Now, you know, like $2,500.
That's it. I am not going to go down further. You've made a good argument, and I'm
I did.
recognizing your argument on behalf of your neighbor. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys coming here. So that's what my recommendation is.
All right, Christy, I understand that, and I really appreciate that. That's sweet of you.
You are quite the negotiator, sir. Quite the negotiator.
Yeah.
Look,
Next
you
time
know,
I just
seriously,
negotiate something for the town, I'm gonna
I
ask
want
you
to,
to come with me
I want to say something around reality. They are a wonderful family. They are great people. They just come here, you know, few times a year, and they have 2 property and they keep it really clean.
Right, the other
Really
thing I'm gonna
nice.
tell you, just so you know,
Uh-huh.
she planted another tree. We believe in the right of way. She didn't get a tree permit to plant the tree in the right of way. So when she gets back in town,
Uh-huh.
she needs to come visit the town and ask for that tree permit.
I got you.
Okay?
This is recently now that she did it?
No,
When?
we just found out about it, I think.
She planted a little banana tree.
Oh,
That's in the town's right away.
oh, and then that should not be planted there.
So just tell her next time she comes to town to come in and see
Come
something
in
about
and see
that.
it. But it's a banana Banana, guys.
You are,
I mean,
you are one of a
thinking-
kind, sir.
I was
It's
thinking
all
about
banana tree. It's
I
all
was-
banana.
I think you guys are for all greens, all this stuff, and look, banana, we all need banana. You know?
Yes.
Now, actually, I gotta go to you because I got on my friend over here on this side to reduce it to $2,500, but it's your final decision at the end.
It is, you are quite the argument guy.
Guys, seriously, I love this city. We are in love with Ocean Ridge. Best thing ever happened to us. We came from California 3 years ago, and then we ended up here, and then it's really beautiful. Everybody here is great.
So let me ask you a procedural question before I make my final ruling. So the town attorney indicated that she showed you the documents that have been on the screen. She showed you all the paperwork, all the notice documents. Do you have any objection to that documentation being entered into the record?
No, I mean, I don't have any objection, I would say.
Okay. All right, anything further from either side?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
Well, Bill, if you want to say something on our behalf, and you know, give them an opportunity, give them a chance, you know what I mean? Email. Next hours.
All right, yeah, and I would encourage you, I'll make my final ruling, but I would encourage you at the end, I'm gonna tell you to report back to your property or your respondent a couple of things. But in case 2023-002, I'm gonna enter the town's evidentiary case files composite exhibit 1 without objection. I'm gonna find based on the affidavit of posting as well as the signed certified mailing that the town had good service for today's hearing. And I'm gonna find based on the testimony of both sides as well as the photographs in the case file that was entered that there's clearly an irreparable, irreversible violation of section 66-151B6 for the hat racking of the sea grape tree that's shown in the photographs. And I'm going to assess, because that is irreparable and irreversible, a one-time fine in the amount of $2,500 for that irreparable, irreversible violation. Because I have found a respondent in violation, I have to award the town's administrative costs for today's hearing, which are $172.80, payable within 30 days. But what I would encourage you to report back to her, she'll get an order that reflects all that in the mail. The town attorney was very gracious to give you a reduction in what she was requesting on the town's behalf, but encourage her that when she's going to do something and she knows that that's the town's right of way, she needs to call the town, right? Communicate with the town. The way you don't get in code enforcement is you communicate with the town before you do whatever you're planning to do. So if you're gonna plant a banana tree in the right of way, call the town and get permission, get a permit, get whatever you need from the town. Same thing, if you're gonna cut your trees down, you're gonna have your gardener do anything, call the town and make sure that what you're proposing to do is allowed by the town's code. This is a small town, very responsive town, so impress upon her the importance of communicating with the town, because that will prevent her from getting into this scenario in the future. And certainly report back that you cannot cut trees in that manner. If her gardener thinks that that's an acceptable method of pruning, she should talk to her gardener, because it is not an acceptable method of pruning a tree. So report those things back. I appreciate your arguments. Not having a code enforcement history with the town is a good thing, but she also does need to be aware that that's a pretty serious violation. And in nearly every hat racking case I hear, they're requesting the maximum fine. There's a reason for that. So report that back to her. You did a wonderful job arguing on her behalf. But report back that she should not be doing that going forward to any other trees on either her site or the town's public right of way. And she'll get an order that reflects all of that in the mail. But thank you both for appearing today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, you guys are great, appreciate you guys, thank you for what you do for the city, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other matters to come before the magistrate
No,
today?
Your Honor, that's it.
All right, with that, we will stand adjourned at 10:39.
Thank you.
Thank you for your great response.
Welcome.
I'm good, we need you.